The question is, which of these syllables is ong, ah, ow, e, and a? This is interesting. I think that's probably what's going on. I could be wrong. Oh, I'm glad those with knowledge of this are enjoying the process. We do aim to provide some entertainment on this channel. Maybe. So YouTube, welcome back. We are going to be continuing with our adventure in the second Historical Linguistics Challenge. We've got some vowel reconstruction to do, so let's, by all means, just get started. So away I go into the corner, and back to work we go. So yes, the last thing before that noise happened was that we were talking about nasal vowels in A corresponding to long vowels in D. And let's see, it looks like this is, so let's just look at the first few nasal vowels. A has no reflex in D, so we can't tell. It works for word 2. It does not work for word 3, but instead of a long vowel, we get a diphthong. So that still holds up. So it's a long vowel, it's a heavy syllable of some sort, long vowel or diphthong. We have the same thing going on in 4. We have a long vowel in 5. We have nasal corresponding to long vowel in 6. So I think, yes, we should definitely call it. What we could do is correspond. We could posit a correspondence between long vowels and in D, long vowels / diphthongs, and nasal vowels in A by having the ancestral language having a vowel nasal sequence, and then in D the nasal drops out, causing compensatory lengthening, and then some of those long vowels diphthongize. So I think that's probably what we will do. So let's call this, I think there's also a mosquito in here. Okay, let's bring over the long vowel marker. So this rule, it's a bit hard to see. Having trouble fitting everything on the screen. If you need me to scroll over, just let me know. And so we have this compensatory lengthening going on in D. Okay, and now we have to account for the diphthongs. And I'm not entirely sure how to do it yet. We have something, maybe long ah is becoming ow. Or maybe long o is becoming ow or all. Something like that. Not sure. Similarly, we may have long e becoming a, although I think we're going to have to reconstruct more of the vowel system in order to do this. And all right, well, I think that's a fairly solid rule. So we can keep that in there, but we are going to have to do the diphthongization. So put a little note in diphthongs, question mark. Let's see if we can. Okay, let's look at something. Well, no, let's first, we'll go down, and I want to get all the way down to 13. So we'll go down to 13 and account for all of these. Let's account for all of these long vowels / nasal vowels. So it looks like we have something like this correspondence. I need to write this up. So on, ong, ah, ow, and no reflex in E. Okay, so that's in, where is that? That's in 3. I should do 1 and 2 as well, just to finish it off. So 1, 2, we have nasal vowels The problem with one gives me a bit of pause because I'm not sure which syllable, pen, bean, is being continued by bean in A. So I'm not sure what the correspondence is. It's either N or in, but not totally sure which. So we'll have to enlarge that a little bit. But then we have E, we have no reflex, and we have in. Then for 2, we have I, we have ing in B, so I in A, nasalized E, and ing in B. Then we have I in C, we have long A in D, and we have ing in E. Okay. So this looks to me like, okay, so let's look, we have 5 languages. In 2 of these languages, we have vowel nasal sequences, B and E. In 1 language, we have nasal vowels. In 1 language, we have long vowels / diphthongs. And in 1 language, we have just short vowels. So it looks like we have an ancestral vowel nasal sequence with nasal loss and compensatory lengthening in D, with just nasal loss in C, with no compensatory lengthening, and with nasalization in A. Perhaps there was an original state of affairs where you had compensatory lengthening and nasalization, and then A and D lost the length, and A and C lost the length, and C and D lost the nasalization. That would be my back of the napkin guess. But let's just continue on systematically so we can gather more data. So we have we have ing, we have a. Let's start to think about the quality of these vowels as well. What they may have been in the proto-language. I think in the case of two, I would want to okay, I think before I say that, I'm going to read what Jack has just written. So 1A in corresponds to N in 1B. Otherwise, it would correspond to U and Un in C and E. Well, the question is which of these syllables is dropping out in A? Is it the first or the second? Maybe we can get more information about that elsewhere. It looks to me like it's the second. So I think Jack is correct. Sutton's suggesting we go look at 19. Yeah, so 19 is a similar situation where we have the we have on, mo in A corresponding to mudu, and it's quite clear that we're continuing the first syllable there. So I think we can safely say that I in A corresponds to N in B. And that means we can also go up and find where we've done the B, and actually this is continuing P. Maybe. I think that's probably what's going on. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that one. I'm hesitant enough that I'm going to put a question mark in still. Just to record that skepticism. All right, let's continue with our nasal vowel exploration. So we have ing, So this one's kind of interesting because we have a nasal vowel with a nasal consonant after it. Yeah, so I think, Reggie, you're right that what we have here is VN for all of these. I'm not totally ready to say what nasal it is in particular, although I suspect that it's actually N and the velar nasal for these ones. Actually, I think I am ready to say that. The quality of the vowels I'm not totally sure about yet. So ing. So what do we have here? We have ing. We have. This is interesting. So we're going to. I'm not sure we should do this yet. This is complicated. It seems like we have ing, edge, this. Well, let's just go for it and see what happens. So we have this correspondence. Ing, edge, ek, and then egg, and then ik. What's going on there? I wonder. This is not the same thing as what's going on in 1 to 4. Okay, Sauten's given us something to look at. 31 causes problems for the VN sequences, for the VN hypothesis, as does 5, frankly. And I think it's the same kind of problem. So let's look at this one. We have we have ik, we have ook, we have high tone og, and we have ook. Yep, that's definitely giving us some trouble. So 5 and 31 seem to be a different kind of nasalization, or at least nasalization with some different complication involved. Let's collect some more. Maybe it will become clear as we go. So in 6, I think we have another similar issue. So we have and then oop. So this is actually interestingly quite similar to 31. Ob. So this is number 6. Ob and oop. So it looks like whether we have a labial, whether we have a velar, we're getting this nasal vowel in A. Maybe what we had is some sort of vowel nasal stop, something like this. Oh, let's just write VNP sequence. That could work, I think. It's possible then that the prenasalized, yeah, as Jack, I think there's something to recommend that theory as well. Whether it's a nasal consonant sequence or prenasalized stop. Or it could just have been a voice stop that in one branch gets prenasalized. Although, if that's true, why does it show up as a long vowel in D? If it were just a prenasalized stop, I don't think we would expect compensatory lengthening necessarily. This to me suggests a vowel nasal stop sequence. So maybe that's what we have here. If that's true, if we have a vowel nasal stop sequence here, why do we have a nasal consonant after the nasal vowel in the nasalized vowel in A? Blah 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 blah. This is what I wonder about. So let's treat these as provisional reconstructions. Well, everything's provisional, frankly. Let's continue. Let's forge ahead. Okay, so then we have nasal vowel in 7, ad in B, ab in C, ib in D, and up in E. So I think we have the same kind of thing going on here in 7 as we have in 5, 6, and 31. Something like vowel nasal P. Oh, I'm glad those with knowledge of this are enjoying that process. We do aim to provide some entertainment on this channel. Okay, so let's continue. 8. Here we have the more classic nasalization scenario. E, ang. Where is it? A. Oops. A, I, and ung. So here I think we're dealing with vowel and then the velar nasal. Reggie asks, why not vowel nasal T for 7? Well, I was thinking that we might be dealing with something like yeah, what if we, that's a good point. Okay, so what if we have something like, let's just use this ah vowel for sake of argument, something like amtan, or yeah, something like amtan. And then we have denasalization in B to abtan, and then voicing assimilation to abdan, and then place assimilation to addan. Maybe that's the solution. Or maybe let's go back over here. Maybe it is just a voiced stop. I'm going around in circles here. I'm going around in circles. Chat, what's going on? So what are our, let's try and corral our resources. What are the options for words like 5, 6, 7, and 31? So let's get 8 out of here, because that is much more like these. What are our options? Let's use this area as a scratch pad. So we have a vowel, nasal, stop sequences. We have vowel, voice stop sequences. So I'm using T as cover for any stop, D as cover for a voice stop, and N as cover for any nasal. We also have vowel and then prenasalized stop, options. The other thing that we might be dealing with is vowel nasal, which becomes denasalized in branches like B, C, D, E. VNT has the advantage of explaining compensatory lengthening. So that's good. What are the disadvantages of the VNT theory? It runs into issues, as Sutton points out, with word 1, penbin, unless we lose the second syllable before. And then it ends up being just pen. That could be the issue. If nasal vowels were in the proto, they would have to have been long in order to explain D. And if they're all long, if we have a proto-language with a set of exclusively long nasal vowels, then it almost seems like, why not just reconstruct vowel nasal and then something else. Oh, you heard the ice cream elephant. Yep, he's back. Bringing ice cream to all the good people of Lima. I have to say, the ice cream that they have here is really good. But neither here nor there. All right. Okay. We could have the series of prenasalized stops. There's another theory. What does this buy us? What does this buy us? This buys us the fact that we have nasalized vowels in some and stops in others. So it's kind of this prenasalized stop is sort of midway between the two. It doesn't tell us much about so midway between stop and nasal. It doesn't really explain the length of D. Yeah, it doesn't explain the length of D, unless we have something like lengthening before voiced stops, always, or something like that, which I guess does happen allophonically in English. Yeah, possible. I'm not sure. And then just a vowel voice stop sequence is kind of similar to the prenasalized stop theory. So they're kind of in between the two, or rather, it's not appreciably different from the prenasalized stop theory. The vowel nasal theory runs into trouble with the different treatment of vowel nasal sequences. So I don't think that's it. Okay. So Jack points out, if we have a prenasalized stop going to nasal stop sequences in D, yeah, we could basically combine these theories. So we have prenasalized stops in the proto-language, then those go to nasal stop sequences in D, and then we get compensatory lengthening. Maybe that's what it is. I think we need to collect a few more correspondences. I think these are our two theories. So let's be on the lookout for something that can help us with this. How is 5 handled with our existing obstinate reconstruction? Well, we have to decide what this consonant corresponds to. So let's treat the obstruent on its own here. So it seems like we have some kind of nasal in A. So we have nasal in A. We have the affricate in B, which is explained by our, well, we have a nascent rule here. Coronals have to become palatal under some circumstances, probably before front or high vowels. Certainly this case is both. Okay, so that's good. We have K, we have G, and we have aspirated K. So let's look at our existing correspondence sets. We have this kind of thing going on where we have aspirates in E. We have this for T3B. We have this for T2. We have this for P2. T3B may be wrong. These may not be of the same kind as the rest of T3. That's why I call them T3A and T3B. I think there may be some difference between the two. But regardless, it looks like we're dealing with something like this 2 series, T2, which we have voiced, 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 aspirate. Voiced, 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 aspirate. What do we have here? Nasal, voiced, voiceless, voiced, aspirate. So 3 out of 5 ain't bad, I guess. Yeah. We have to find some reason why we get a nasal and in A and a voiceless consonant in C. But other than that, it looks like we're dealing with oh, sorry, did I say coronal to the palatal? This is a velar to a palatal, which we already have. Okay, so focus colon, focus. What do we have here? We have probably K2, something like that. I don't think we actually, yeah, we have K2. So this, oh, actually, look, this is actually 4 out of 5 ain't bad. So the only difference between the other K2s, the word initial K2s, is that we have a nasal in A. So I'm going to provisionally call this reconstructed K2. Where's my little thing that paints? There we go. So K2. So we're going to put that as orange. Oh, Reggie, thanks for joining us. Your help has been much appreciated. Enjoy class. All right. Sawton wants to see the uvular shift included. We still have the uvular shift, I believe. I haven't changed that. So we have uvulars going to velars in A, B, and C. Uvulars getting deleted in D. We've limited this to word initial position. Maybe more general than that. We haven't really explored the other positions. Up until this point, we're going to start with that now. So I think what we have here is what we have in 5 is something like, so we either have something like enkine, something like that, or maybe enkine. And let's put that velar nasal in. Enkine or engine, not totally sure. Or we have, maybe we could call it NK2, enkine. Don't know what sort of stop that is. Or we have something like, where would we be? engine. Those, I think, are our two options. And so in that case, K2 would be the pre-nasalized. So what we have called K2 here is actually the pre-nasalized series. So those, I think, are our two options. So if the two series are pre-nasalized, let's see if that makes sense. Does a pre-nasalized stop make sense going nasal? Yes. Voiced? Yes. Voiceless? Maybe after a chain shift or something like that. Voiced? Yes. Aspirated? That seems a bit off to me. A pre-nasalized stop becoming an aspirated stop. That doesn't strike me as the most likely thing in the world. The other option would be that we have indeed a nasal stop cluster, and we have something like, as was mentioned last time, a voiced aspirate Proto-Indo-European style situation going on like this. And then having it become voiced and voiced in some branches, aspirated in some branches, makes sense. And then the presence of the nasal comes from the fact that that the nasal stop cluster simplifies to a nasal, but not before putting nasalization onto the previous vowel in branch A. Maybe? What do we think, chat? I don't know. So I think those are our two options for K2. Let's see if we can gather more data. So we have, let's look at the other twos. So these are all initial. These are all word initial. So if they are prenasalized, well, you would expect some of them to, well, I don't know about this, but I would say it's a slight argument against that theory that we don't have any trace of nasalization in any of them at all. These two series, here we have the P2, no trace of nasalization, K2, no trace of nasalization. I'm leaning towards this theory here, the nasal stop cluster, for that reason. Jack asks, why does A have ingin, as opposed to ingin? Okay, well, I think we could definitely make the sequence work by saying that we yeah, no, it doesn't make sense because, Jack, you're right, because that would conflict with what's going on with 3, where we seem to have tong dahlo. I'm assuming that the structure of the word is something like B, going to don del. And if this were analogous to 5, we would expect donnel. Oh, goodness. Well, I'm worried that we're causing Sotten some pain here. I never like to be the cause of anyone's pain. Schadenfreude, perhaps, but not pain. So why don't we leave this for a moment, put in a break, and try and tackle another problem, and hopefully we can find a solution there to what's ailing us here. So back to the full screen webcam to say goodbye to YouTube, and we will come back and we'll work some more, and we'll hopefully make some good progress. So we'll see you then.